The Ferris wheel came to a violent stop when we were almost at the very top, leaving our small cabin swaying gently hundreds of feet above the crowded fairground. My high school crush stared down at the tiny people below, her face drained of color as panic completely took over. Within seconds, her hands began to shake, tears filled her eyes, and before I could even think of what to do, she climbed into my lap, wrapped both arms around me, buried her face against my shoulder, and held on with every bit of strength she had. I had spent years imagining what it would feel like to be close to her, but I never imagined it would happen because she was terrified and trusted me to keep her calm. In that unforgettable moment above the carnival lights, I realized that sometimes life gives us a second chance in the most unexpected way. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the power of being there for someone when they need you the most, please like this video, leave a comment, share it with your friends and family, and subscribe to Kindness Space. Every bit of your support helps us continue sharing emotional stories that bring hope and warmth to people around the world. 10 years had passed since high school graduation, but some memories refused to disappear. Back then, she was the girl who could brighten an ordinary day with nothing more than a smile. She wasn't the loudest student or the center of attention, yet everyone admired her quiet confidence and genuine kindness. I was the quiet boy who always admired her from a distance, too afraid to admit how deeply I cared. Every small interaction stayed with me for years. Whenever she thanked me for helping with schoolwork or smiled while passing me in the hallway, I carried those moments home like precious memories. Graduation arrived before I ever found the courage to tell her how I felt, and life carried us in completely different directions. The following years were filled with work, responsibilities, and learning how quickly dreams can change. I accepted that my teenage crush was simply a beautiful memory that would never become anything more. Then one cool autumn afternoon, I decided to spend my weekend at the local county fair. Families laughed together, children ran between colorful attractions, and cheerful music echoed through the air beneath a bright blue sky. It was the perfect place to forget the stress of everyday life, or so I thought. As I stood near a food stand enjoying the lively atmosphere, I heard someone softly call my name. I turned around and immediately recognized the familiar smile I had never forgotten. She looked older, more mature, and carried a quiet sadness that hadn't existed during our school days. For a brief moment, time seemed to stand still. We smiled awkwardly before laughing about how strange it felt to meet again after so many years. We spent the afternoon walking through the fair together, sharing stories about where life had taken us. She admitted that adulthood hadn't been nearly as easy as she once imagined. Career plans had changed, relationships had ended, and she had learned that happiness wasn't something anyone could simply chase. I shared my own struggles, the disappointments I had quietly carried, and how I eventually discovered that success meant very little without meaningful people to share it with. The more we talked, the more it felt like we were simply continuing a conversation that had been paused for an entire decade. Eventually, we found ourselves standing in front of the giant Ferris wheel rising high above the fairgrounds. She smiled and admitted it had always been her favorite ride, because it offered the most beautiful view of the world below. I confessed that I had never ridden one before, and she laughed before convincing me that today should finally be my first experience. The ride began gently, lifting us higher above the colorful booths and busy crowd.